What's going on, everyone? Alex Da Silva.
And Lucy Kai from Happy as Low Group. Hello, everyone.
Right. It's Friday. It's
Friday.
Not Thursday.
It's Friday. Yes, it's Friday.
We're supposed to do the video Tuesdays and Thursdays, but only for a couple of weeks. We're going to change this. And you know what? I was just thinking, in the future, when people start watching this actually doesn't even matter.
It doesn't matter what day it is.
So who gives a toss?
It could be any day on the week.
Could be any day of the week.
So maybe it's Sunday for you, but
Exactly.
today for us is Friday.
Exactly. So listen.
So we've got the Friday feeling.
Exactly. Listen, welcome. It's been a fantastic week, and this topic is a real close one to our hearts. Mm-hmm. Really, really close, because I think without this topic, we wouldn't be here. You know, so what's the topic, Luce?
The topic is addiction this week, or today, sorry. It's something that is close to our hearts. It's something that we both suffer from. It's something we've both got a lot of experience in. And also, someone that I know requested that we do this video as well. So thank you. Thank you so much for following us and for having faith in that we might be able to give you a bit of insight into what addiction is. Yeah, so we will try. We might do all right. Hopefully we'll do all right. But you know, you can always feedback on what you think anyway at the end.
And always do. Yeah, always comment below. And this is the thing, because of that, we're going to be doing this topic video. So always comment, you know, let us know what you're thinking. Let us know how you feel. Thanks to everybody that has been commenting. And, you know, it's amazing. It keeps us, you know, trying to plug out, you know, more and more material for you. So let's get started. Yeah. Let's crack on. Addiction. Love it. Yeah.
Love it or hate it.
Love it or hate it. Hated it for many years. Love it today. Saved my life. Yeah. And you, huh?
Yeah.
It's a real, listen, it's a real life changer, this thing, for me and for Luce. To be honest, I would have still been in addiction if I didn't meet Lucy. So truth is, she saved my life, you know, amongst other people who will also watch this video, and many others, you know, and I thank every single one of these people, because they kept inspiring me to change, you know. And when I was kind of stuck in this hole and all I wanted to do was to kill myself, I found Lucy, and I found people around me, other addicts, who were able to really, really reach out and help us out, help me out.
Yeah. So let's get down to the nitty gritty. What is addiction? Addiction is how I understand it, and how I've understood it from my own personal experience, but also from my studies now that I'm studying at university. I'm studying addiction psychology and counselling at a master's degree. Just a little plug there for my ego. And when I finish the course, I will qualify to be a therapist specialising in addiction. So what is addiction? It's something that affects someone mentally. It's something that affects someone emotionally, stroke spiritually, and something that affects someone physically as well. So, and that's just the very, very basic of what addiction is. I learned that addiction for me, and for many other people, isn't actually really about the substance that you use or the behaviour that you choose to use addictively. It's more to do with what is going on inside of me, and the reason why I feel then it's necessary for me to reach out and try and alter the way I feel by using something to change the way I am on my inside, which is my emotions, how I see the outside world, and also, you know, how I feel physically in myself, my energy levels. And I guess that's where those sort of three things come into it. And so my drug of choice was alcohol. I used it. I drank alcoholically for a good number of years. Also, I suffered with bulimia, which I know is obviously an eating disorder, but there is an addictive process around that as well, which some people might not be aware of. again, there's always a lot of studies to a lot of things like this, and there are critiques of whether it is an addictive process or not. But how I understand it for myself is that it was definitely an addictive process for me, and in recovery, it in itself was a very difficult addictive process for me to unravel and to let go of, and to gain any kind of abstinence from, which I'm now celebrating a little bit of time from that as well. So we did touch on types of addiction, but obviously when people think about addiction, a lot of time they think about substances like alcohol and drugs.
Yeah, true.
But there are behavioural addictions which are just as serious, which normally are combined in with someone who is suffering with alcoholism or drug addiction, is also a behavioural addiction mixed into that as well, which they don't always know about. I mean, you've had experience of that with your processes.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been blessed to be a full addict across all types, and substances was a huge one for me, and drugs, alcohol, and combined with behaviours, sex, and food addictions. There was just various. Do you know what for me was changing the way I felt in any way, shape or form? That I just did not want to feel or be me, and this is the thing, and it's so hard to say that and actually think, God, does somebody understand what I'm saying? I know people who are in addiction understand that, people who are in a recovery process, they come to understand that, but for somebody who doesn't even know that they suffer, is this making sense? One of the things I do want to highlight, if these things start to make sense and it starts to trigger something, then hey, listen, then this is a really important one. We are here because we do understand it, and we do have many different ways that we can help or guide you. So, and again, doesn't matter where you are in the world. So yeah, substances was a huge thing for me, and Lucy knows my story very well. I took it to an extreme, whether it was sleeping pills, alcohol, cocaine was one of my biggest things. Ecstasy, MDMA, you name it, you gave it to me, I took it. The only things I didn't do yet was stick a needle in me and smoke from a pipe. But listen, if I didn't come into addiction and somebody had offered it to me whilst I was still out there, I probably would have taken it, and that's just me being completely honest. And one of the things to touch on is people think that an addict is someone who sleeps on a park bench, or someone who's a crackhead or a smackhead. Actually, no, that's the reality. No, I've been very fortunate. We own this place, and I have an incredible job, and this is the thing. I never wanted to admit to it because my stereotype was exactly that. I was very stereotypical around what an addict would be, and I wouldn't accept it.
I think that is a big problem with a lot of other people as well, because they can be very judgmental of an alcoholic or an addict, and I don't always feel comfortable referring to people as those labels, because we aren't defined by addiction. We aren't defined by the fact that I call myself an alcoholic, because I am in recovery from alcoholism. I am not defined by that word, and that doesn't make me who I am. There are many different parts of me that make me who I am, and that's certainly not a very huge important part of who I am, that word. But I think one of the questions to ask really when talking about addiction is where does it come from? Because people, the thing is with addiction is where does it come from? Somewhere in the family? Is it genetic? Is it something that happens over a certain amount of time? Is it something that happens to a certain type of person? Is it something that happens to someone because of something? it's very difficult to say, put a pinpoint exactly what it is, because for so many people it's so many different things. However, what I've seen throughout the last 3 years that I've been in this process is that a main thread of addiction is that when someone starts to drink or use something and has an inability to stop, or doesn't have any control over how much they drink or use or how they behave, and then they're really regretful because of the way that they've either behaved or the amount of drink or alcohol that they've used that they didn't have any control over. So it's something that someone who is within the throes of that illness doesn't have any control over. That when I took a drink, it came to a point where I didn't have I had no ability to control it. And I knew that for a good number of years, actually, that once I drank, I had no ability to stop. For some people, it's more of the drugs that they take, and an inability to stop once they start using. And it's almost like this, it triggers this allergy that we learn, it's called an allergy within us, that once we start the process of putting one of those within us, inside of us, that we can't stop. We're not able to stop.
Yeah.
And it's hard for someone to understand that doesn't struggle with it.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to understand. There's a lot to it.
Yeah, the people that can go down to the pub or to the bar and have one drink and go home.
That's weird.
You lucky fuckers.
That's really weird.
That is really weird.
Really
and do you know
weird.
what the funniest thing is when I came into recovery, a lot of the things that I was getting in trouble for, I just thought, I thought it was just nagging, and I'm just going out for a few drinks, I'll be back, I'll be home at a certain time, then my phone will go off and I'll roll in at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, and would just think it will be a social thing, not understanding about what we discussed, which is this allergy. And how it got explained to me is because internally we suffer, there is like that spiritual hole. And because we suffer with the spiritual hole, our emotions are all over the place. So, imagine a bar graph and imagine us doing this, just going up and down, up and down. 1 minute we're happy, 1 minute we're sad. We are overly sensitive, extremely, extremely intelligent people, very creative, but we are extremely oversensitive. And we cannot deal with that. I cannot deal with that. So what would happen for me? So I would explain what would happen with me. So imagine me as a little bit of a graph. So this is me internally struggling at the moment. It's Friday. Here is a perfect example. We just finished work and I turn around and say, hey, how about we go for a drink? Lucy's an alcoholic. I'm a cocaine addict. We go, okay, cool. Let's do that. We turn up at the bar. So this is, by this point, we spoke in the morning. So already, my internal is already telling my head, oh my God, I cannot wait till 5 o'clock. And I'm counting the hours every single second until I get out of the office. That is called an obsession. So once I start to obsess about having that drink or having that drug, that for me then triggers this overwhelming feeling where it's like an excitement. I can feel the excitement now. I get goosebumps thinking about it. So what I do is once this obsession is triggering around me and we get to the pub or we get to a bar, I turn around and says, we'll have 2, please. So we can have a glass of wine or we can have a beer, whatever the drink of choice is. So we will have the first one. By the time we've necked the first one, I've called the drug dealer. She's ordered 2 bottles and we've rolled it around the shots. Not just for us, for everybody else in the bar as well. And this goes on and on and on and on until the next day or the day after or the day after that, depending how long we can carry on for, depending how much money we've got, depending how much drugs we've got going on. Can you understand this process? This process sometimes doesn't even end, and I mean, imagine then just going round and round in a circle, and that's what I did for years. I behaved in that way for years and I excused it and I blamed it on everybody else, not understanding what was going on in here, not what was going on in here, and this allergy that once I put one in me, I could not stop. And yeah, I mean, it's just, I guess I kind of described it in a roundabout way, right?
Yeah, I think it's really important to say also as well though, with my drinking, and I think you might relate to this as well, that my thought process wanted me to be on my own with it. It didn't really want, there was only a certain amount of time when I wanted to be around people, and then I was just like, actually, I just really want to be drinking on my own. I don't actually want to be around people, because if I'm on my own drinking, I don't have anyone to question what I'm doing or how much I'm drinking or my drinking habits or what time I'm starting on drinking, and how I'm behaving when I'm drinking as well. I can just do whatever I want if there's no one else around. So I think it's really important to say actually that the drug and alcohol use it's only a social thing for a certain amount of time, and then normally what it leads to is that for me it was more that I just want to be on my own drinking. I don't want anyone around me because I just want to drink on my own. I can't cope with life. I don't want to have to make the effort to be around people when I know I can't control how much I'm going to consume. So, because it came to a point where I would get fearful of actually going out drinking because I had no idea where I was going to end up, what I was going to do, or how I was going to behave, and I was actually frightened for my own safety, but I still didn't want to stop. That absolute inability to have any control over it. So
it's a real lonely isolation, isn't it?
Yeah, it's horrible.
When it gets to that
It's
point.
horrible.
And I did the same. You know, I did the same a number of times, and weirdly enough, I remember somebody saying to me once, and it wasn't even about me or anybody, we were just having a conversation, and actually we were all high. You know, we were out somewhere, we were drinking champagne, and how wanky this sounds, we were drinking champagne and doing cocaine. I mean, geez, I think back now and I think, what a tosser.
Classy.
I'm talking about me, yeah, very classy. And but we were having that conversation, and somebody said to me, you know, you've got a problem when you're doing this on your own. And I thought to myself, God, I'm never going to do that, you know, go home and do it on my own. That's exactly what happened to me. I would go out, and then I would go home, and I would just carry on my own, have my own little party. I'll turn the radio down to about 1 because it was too loud, and I will just have my own little fun. You know,
it's odd, isn't it, when you
so
talk about
horrible.
it now?
Oh my God!
And I remember, you know, I used to do the same. I got to the point where I was putting vodka in water bottles and drinking in the mornings and loads of other stuff. Obviously, I could go on about that for a really long time. But I think there's going back to what addiction is in itself. There isn't an age range for it.
No.
It can start really for anyone at any point in their lives. I think that habits start quite early in. I think for me it started with food, with sugar, with certain behaviours as well. But you know what, I don't know, I can't pinpoint it. I don't know, and I think it's different for many people. But also one thing to think about, you know, is are there some people that are more susceptible than others? And you mentioned earlier about that whole the emotional, being really sensitive as an individual, and that's one thing I've seen a lot. I've always known that for myself. I've always known that I'm really emotionally sensitive. Really, actually, I have this inability to actually control my emotions. I've known that for many years, even since I was really, really young. I've always been really open, open emotionally. I've always been mostly just really sensitive to emotions, but also sensitive to other people's emotions as well. So for me, I just always felt really open to all that stuff, and really couldn't understand how to actually how to control them. And when I was able to use alcohol or drugs or behaviours or eating disorders or relationships or whatever it was to manage my emotions, that's how I thought, well, this is how I'm going to do it. This is how other people must do it. So I'm going to do it this way as well. And then I remember thinking, when I was in addiction, I do remember thinking, what if I just didn't drink, or what if I just didn't do this? And it petrified me, because I thought, how do people just do life?
Yeah.
How do they just do it?
Yeah.
I couldn't understand how people just got on with life and didn't seem to be that bothered about life, when really I struggled every single day. And
it's interesting. Sorry, it's just interesting that a lot of what you've just touched on is really, because it triggered a few things for me. You know, we were talking about age. You know what I didn't know? You know, I had no idea that my addictive behaviours were from such a young age. It's only recently, and I'm talking very recently, that I started to understand and realise, oh my God, I've been doing this from a very, very young age. You know, from a child, 7, 8, and you know, real dangerous behaviours as well with certain things, and really kind of acting out, with food, sex, and and sort of other behaviours. But you know what, certain things, around food, we were talking about food just now, food, even alcohol, it's so socially accepted, picking up a cigarette, going outside, having a drink and having a cigarette, because it's so socially accepted, nobody even triggers what it's actually doing to them physically, spiritually, mentally. And I didn't, and I had no clue. I just thought, well, you know what, well, let's go out Friday and let's have a couple of drinks. We've had a great day today, or do you know what, I'm really struggling today, and this would start from a young age. And yeah, it's interesting you touched on that, because I just wanted to kind of point it out that it can trigger at any age, and the most dangerous thing about it is, and one of the key things that are happening right now in the world, obesity. And we'll probably talk about this in another topic. I'm not going to get into it, but just remember that word, because again, socially acceptable, and addiction, food addiction is a huge thing. I suffered a lot with my weight. I was a very short and very, very overweight kid. And, I've really suffered with food addiction, and I still do today. I struggle with sugar. That's me being really honest. I have to be very, very careful. And you did as well, didn't you? Obviously, Lucy was talking about bulimia, and this is the thing. It's so hard to pinpoint because it is socially acceptable, and unfortunately, from the back of all of these things, bullying then gets triggered, and kids don't really know what to do, but then they can't stop eating. I used to hide myself in the toilet and eat cookies, and just didn't understand why. I just wasn't feeling right inside, so I would hide and eat. That was my thing, and how many little kids, boys and little girls that go off and do these things and don't really understand, or parents don't really understand how to deal with it. Just go, oh, they're just being kids, it's what kids do, but not really looking at, the potential, deeper issue in that.
Or even being aware of it, because I think there is a lot involved in it, and a lot of people don't actually know about it. And that leads us on to, is it something to do with someone's upbringing?
Yeah.
It can certainly contribute towards it. If you suffer from trauma when you're younger, I know I did. Yeah. I suffered with a lot of trauma, and it certainly my emotions were already very, very sensitive, I was always very vulnerable as a child emotionally. So to then suffer from trauma, and some pretty horrific things to happen to me when I was younger, I don't really have a hope in hell, really. I was always gonna have to find something to deal with my emotions, and actually now I can look back at my addictive past and be thankful that I found alcohol, to be thankful that I found drugs, and thankful that I found bulimia, and I found ways of coping, because I don't know actually if I would be here today if I hadn't found things as a crutch to lean on for many years. And that might sound paradoxical, but it's true, because I don't know, I think I would have taken my life a long time before because I wouldn't have been able to cope with what was going on inside of me emotionally, but also what was going on inside of my head as well, because of lots of things that happened to me as well.
Yeah.
So I can actually say, weirdly and ironically so, that I am actually thankful that I did find drugs, I did find alcohol,
Yeah.
I did find weird behaviours of a way of dealing with my emotions. And the same as Alex said, you know, the sexual side of stuff as well. Yes, I was very promiscuous at one stage, and I used that to deal with a lot of stuff that was going on inside of me, and that was linked to trauma from my past as well, which is a whole other video to talk about.
Yeah.
But I think, like, moving on a little bit, I think that there's obviously, you know, that I think that describes addiction maybe a little bit for might give you a bit more of an understanding of what addiction is. But the problem is with addiction is that a lot of people don't really understand it because it is very complex. There isn't that many studies that have been done on addiction. I know that there's how addiction is viewed is mostly governed by America. And America's view of addiction is that it is a disease, but there are many other theories as to what addiction is, and that's part of my course that I'm learning. I'm very young in my studies in understanding it, and I can only really talk about what my experience is. But the thing with addiction is there is a massive social stigma attached to it, and we touched on earlier of talking about what an addict is or what an alcoholic is. And my view also was that it's you know, a woman, a prostitute selling her body for crack or heroin, you know, an emaciated man that lives in the park that drinks out of a brown paper bag and lays on a park bench. We don't think about people that working in the city that are earning lots and lots of money, that are sticking cocaine up their nose at 7 a.m, 8 a.m, 9 a.m. in the morning, and doing it all day, and then going out and drinking all night, and then staying up. And it's not just the cocaine, it's not just the alcohol, it's the people that are there also workaholics that are working, you know, all the hours under the sun because they don't want to deal with their emotional states or what's going on for them, and because they are addicted to that obsessive process of being at work, and that is just the tip of the iceberg, really. And the social stigma with also using labeling people as an addict, labeling someone as an alcoholic, how beneficial is that? I don't always know if that is actually beneficial, and I don't like to be defined by that, because I'm many more things rather than an alcoholic in recovery, or an addict in recovery, or a bulimic in recovery. I am Lucy, and I have many parts to my personality, and that a big part of it is that I am recovering in my life from certain illnesses that I've suffered with, that I don't suffer with actively anymore, because I've done, and I still continue to do a lot of work on myself. Yeah,
definitely. And listen, the social stigma thing is really interesting, you know, and I couldn't admit to it for a long time. And, you know, as Lucy touched on, you know, it doesn't define me. I was really ashamed of it, you know, when I first sort of started searching for help and reached out. It was, you know, there is that real stigma, and I thought, I don't want to be tarred with that brush, and that's just me being honest, you know. And I didn't accept the fact that I was an addict when I first came in and started looking at help, because, you know, I was being really judgmental of, you know, of other people and what they were doing and their lifestyles, and, you know, and I realized today how wrong that was of me, because I was worse than they were, you know. And this is the thing. And you know what, today addiction doesn't define me, but it's part of my life. It's who I am, and I'm very proud of it. It's the biggest gift that has been given to me, because it has allowed me to go through this process. It has allowed me to go and find myself, you know, and it has allowed me to really screw up my life, you know. And listen, there was a lot of downers on that, and I'm not going to keep going on the downers, because we're going to start going up now on this part of the video. But, you know, we've both caused a lot of people harm, you know, and we've both hurt a lot of people. We know that. But do you know what? That's in a sense, it's what makes us who we are today. You know, they were lessons in life. I don't regret anything that happened in my life, and I'm only speaking for myself. I don't speak for Lucy. I never regretted anything I've done in my life, because it's a lesson, you know, and everything that I've learned throughout my life, I have been blessed to be able to change that today, you know, and I work on myself consistently. I've been looking at things, you know, from an emotional perspective and looking deep into myself, because I don't ever want to be that person again. And you know what? I want to help other people to change. That was one of the things I've always wanted to do. That, you know, that's the reason why we sit here today and we have this company. But I never understood any of these things. I never realized that one day we'd be sitting here, both of us, two addicts, crazy in love, living together, owning a company, doing this video. How incredible is that? That's the beautiful thing about life, is that it does not matter. Addiction does not define me. I've been called an addict. I've been called a crackhead. I've been called a druggie. Do you know what? Yep, I am every single one of those things. But I am the proudest man for that, because I've gained control of my life, you know, and I have people like Lucy, who I fucking love more than anything in the world. And I've got friends who have been there for me and who have helped me to get through it, and still do. And you know what? That is the upside to addiction, and that's where we're going to take you now. You know, it's, you know, how does this part come around, you know, which is, you know, I guess it's the recovery part. You know, how do you go about it? If you're watching this video and you're thinking, God, you know, I suffer from all this stuff and I've been really struggling. Doesn't matter what the addiction is. Listen to what I'm going to say to you. It does not matter what the addiction is. If you have the behavior, and if you've been, you know, whether it's substance or behavior, keep listening.
Yeah. So how does recovery come about? God, oh my God. It took a long time for me to realise that I had a problem. A lot of the time, everybody else knows before you do anyway. And a lot of people will tell you, but you won't hear it. You won't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear it. When I was questioned about the amount I was drinking by people that were worried about me, I just thought they were being a pain in the arse, and they were trying to stop me from having fun, when really I didn't see that I was killing myself. Actually, I was actually killing myself. Not just from the amount I was drinking, but actually the situations I was getting myself into, the danger that I was putting myself into every time I drank. My body became this, I didn't have control over my body. The damage I was doing to myself from my eating disorder, which went in line with my drinking and my drug taking, the behaviours that you know, I could go on and on and on. For me, recovery had to come about for me hitting a really, really low rock bottom, for me to then realise that actually, if I carry on like this, I will actually die. Part of me wanted to die, but part of me knew that it wasn't my time, and I didn't feel like I wanted to go in that way. But also it's somebody has to come to that realization themselves, because denial is so strong. It's such a strong thing. You can only smash through denial when it's the right time for you as a person who is suffering from addiction. It is literally like a veil that covers your face. And then what you will find is when that veil lifts, it lifts completely, and then you're able to see that you need help. For me, I had to really get to a really, really low point before I was ready to ask for help. I was ready to reach out and go into treatment and go into an amazing rehab centre that saved my life, and the people in there saved my life. So that's how it came about for me, really. And I think that it can only come it can only come about at certain points in someone's life when it's ready, when it's right for them, when the time's right. Yeah,
absolutely. I think everyone has their time. You know, I had mine when I guess I was ready, and you know, it took me 3 suicide attempts and 2 overdoses, and just have no respect for anybody or anything, including myself. And I think, as Lucy's saying about having that feeling where, you know what, you just don't want to be alive anymore. And that was me. I was absolutely broken, emotionally dead. And even, you know, when we met and, you know, Lucy started talking to me about it, I I was really, really interested because I was at a point in my life where I just couldn't carry on. But I just couldn't come to terms. I could not accept that there was something wrong. And it's what Lucy said about having that veil. And, it's such a strong grip. It's got this real hold. And you know what? We will hold on for dear life until it gets to the point where, for me, that was it. It was either I sort myself out or I die. That was it. That's how bad it got for me. And I didn't go into the treatment centers. I went into a 12-step program, which we'll talk about. And you know what? It saved my life. And people like Lucy and and many incredible people who helped me as well, through this process. And I sit here today clean, and not an ounce, no obsession, nothing. And do you know what? That is a miracle for me. It's an absolute miracle. And yeah, I hand that one over to you because I love you. It's incredible. And listen, this shit's real. I could turn around and fight you blue in the face and turn around and say to you, I'm not a fucking addict, go fuck yourself. Sorry, Mum. But it's true. And I could, and I would, and I did. And you know what? It's the shame. That's what it is. It's the shame. But do you know what? There is no shame in that. Because I tell you now, the gift at the other end is incredible.
Amazing.
Oh.
So I think that leads us to what treatment is available.
Yeah.
How is it readily communicated, if ever? And that's a tough one, really, because I think that we hear a lot about rehab centres. We hear a lot about the paying to go into rehabilitation, and a lot of people can't afford to do that. It's very, very expensive. I was very lucky in that I have private medical insurance that covered it. But I don't know what would have happened otherwise if I'd have not done that. So there is, there is that whole, how does someone ask for help? There are sources, but I think somebody who's suffering with it will have to do a bit of research to find somewhere to get help, because there are community funded projects that offer drugs and alcohol treatment services. But people do, if you are suffering, you do have to actually look it up yourself. You have to look for it. And I think that's a really difficult thing to do if you're suffering from it. The last thing you have really is a lot of motivation or really where to go. So, but I guess it's, it just depends on what your journey is supposed to be. But the treatment options that are very, very powerful are the psychosocial interventions, which is the group work, which is in treatment. You have group therapy, you work in groups, and which is really, really powerful. But like Alex touched on earlier, the 12-step fellowship option, which is it's a fellowship of people, and a lot of it is done in groups, in meetings, and obviously we have to be very careful about how much we talk about that kind of stuff. However, it has been very powerful and very prominent in my recovery, and it's been an extremely life-saving tool. For me, it's worked, and I still attend regularly. I will always advocate it. I will always talk about it very, very positively, because that social element to the fellowship and to group work is extremely effective.
Yeah.
Because we are, as I guess we are as humans, we are meant to survive socially as well. So to be in that kind of pack mentality where someone has been there before you that can pass on their experience to you and support you and to be there for you is very, very powerful. That's my experience with it.
Definitely. And that's how I came in. So, through a 12-step program and going into a fellowship, and listen, there are many, and you can look it up online, and 12-step program, everybody is aware of it, which is great. And if you're not, definitely do some research, or afterwards, as you know, you can always contact us, and we can talk to you about it confidentially, and we're more than happy to help and point you in the right direction to ensure you get the right help. And it's absolutely incredible, and one of the things that you were touching on, which kind of brought up for me about the low self-esteem, asking for help and how to get the recovery. It's such a hard thing when you first start, but you know what? One thing that I do urge and plead is keep pushing forward, go and ask for that help, because the most important thing is when you do and you get there, and if you stick around and you begin on that journey, I promise you now, which has been promised to me when I first came in, and I make this promise live to the world, it's incredible. This stuff really, really does work, and you've got to put action into things, but you know what? Every single step you take, it's probably the most incredible thing you will ever do in your life, to help you with that.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's not easy.
No.
So I mean, I think we've spoken a lot about addiction, and a lot of information is in this video. And it might be that you're watching this and that it's not you that's suffering with addiction. It's someone that that's someone that's close to you, someone, a friend, a mum, your dad, your sister, your brother, your cousin, whoever it is, someone at work. So how do you get through to someone who is suffering with addiction? I think it's very hard to see it as an outsider and to watch someone destroy their lives and feel powerless to do anything about it because you can't control that person.
Yeah.
And to see someone constantly go down that road of self-destruct and to be on that hamster wheel of going out, getting pissed and taking drugs and then ending up in a certain scenario and then seeing them behave a certain way and being very regretful and going through a lot of pain and then just doing it over and over again. It's really it's insane behaviour. It's not normal. I wouldn't say normal, but it's not, it's a very odd behaviour to continue to repeat all the time. So it's really hard to deal with someone or to know how to approach it. And I think one of the things that I've learned is that sometimes it takes real tough love with someone who is struggling with addiction. And because if you think that you're helping that person, you're probably enabling them to continue to be that way. You're enabling their addiction. You're enabling their behaviour, and actually that is not a loving thing to do. But a lot of people don't know that, and it's not that they're doing it on purpose. But the most loving thing to do is to actually give them some tough love. Yeah. Tell them that that this is happening, and tell them that you don't want them to bullshit you anymore, and that they have to get help. And if you're helping them already, if you're giving them money, if you're putting them up in your house, or if you're constantly bailing them out, that has to stop, because that enables their behaviour to continue. It enables them to continue to use their drug. It enables them to keep manipulating you to get what they want from you, because an addict who is in addictive behaviours will do anything to get their drug of choice. Whatever it is, even if it was a behaviour, they will lie, they will cheat, they will steal, they will manipulate. They're very, very clever, especially when they're wanting their drug of choice, whatever that is. You have to be straight with that person, and you have to tell them that that they're an alcoholic or an addict, or they're addicted to whatever it is, and that you won't tolerate it anymore, and that they have to get help. And then you can help them. You can help them to get the help. But you have to understand that it has to be their decision to get the help. So you can tell them all this stuff. You can have that tough love, and you can throw them out the house. You can not give them money anymore, but you can't make them get that help. They have to make that decision themselves to get the help. And that's it, really. That's how to deal really with someone who's struggling with it.
Without crazy addicts.
Yeah.
And listen, every single thing that we've said here, by the way, this is us. We've been there, we've experienced it, we've done it. People has had to tell us. We've been told many, many, many times. There's been boundaries put in place, tough love. But you know what? We carried on, and we carried on, and we carried on. But it does get to a point where it either leads two ways, and I'm going to be very tough here, you either find this recovery in you, and hopefully, and I really hope, you know, that if you're watching and you do suffer, you do find it, and that's incredible, because you're going to have an amazing life from that. Second one is death. Simple as that. There is no in between. There is no happy, I'm going to carry on using, everything is okay, because the people that can, they can stop, and one day they will, and they will carry on living a normal life, and they will just do whatever it is that they need to do. Now, if you're anything like us and many millions of other people there who have got recovery from all of this, who have got the right help and don't have to use and behave, you know, in the ways that we described, you know, do you know what? It's a very sad and lonely existence, you know, but the most beautiful thing is, and I want to give you the reassurance again, is if you do reach out, and like I said, if you don't want to reach out to anybody else because of a position that you're in, reach out to us. Please, please, please do reach out to us, because we can help you when it comes down to this. You know, and listen, like I said, you know, we've been there. You know, we've been there, we've done that. And I remember, you know, having a conversation with a couple of friends, and, you know, and being really scared about telling them about some of my experience and some of the things that I've done. Believe me, every single person I've spoken to has done it and has behaved in the same way. There is no difference. And I'm telling you this in confidence. It doesn't matter where you come from, your social status, whether you have money, whether you're broke, whether you live on the streets, whether you have, you know, an incredible job. The one thing we all have in common are these behaviors, you know, and how we are. And you know what? It's incredible.
And when someone does come into recovery, when they do take that leap of faith, it's a long journey. It's the beginning of a really long journey. There's lots involved in getting well. There's lots of self-love that you have to do. There's lots of working on yourself through various forms of therapy, of talking things through, becoming honest with yourself, becoming honest with other people. And there will be a hell of a lot of changes to that person's life when they decide to embark on this journey of recovery. There will be changes to their friends, there are changes in their family, there'll be changes with their partners, there'll be so many changes. And my body is still recovering from the years of my addiction. Same. There are still things that surface as a result. I don't suffer health-wise. I don't suffer. I haven't caused myself too much harm. I mean, there are certain things that I struggle with, but I do. It still does affect me. My body is still recovering, so I have to be very, very gentle with myself. I have to work on myself every single day to keep this process going, to keep myself in recovery, to keep myself well. Especially
emotionally as well, isn't it? It's one of the things that we talk about. You know, emotionally, it's really tough, because one of the things that we do as well as part of our behaviour is we don't deal with emotion. So we bury it and chuck sand, mortar, you name it, and it gets very, very deep in there. But you know what? Once you go through this process, these things will come up. And I have mentioned this in previous videos. We talked about this together. Those negative emotions are not meant to be in your body. This is the reason why they keep coming up. So when you go through this journey, just so you know, bear with it, you know, don't hide, don't think something's wrong. This is a healing process, you know, and this healing process can go on for a little while. But one of the things that I always say is short-term pain is long-term gain, you know, so stick with it, give yourself the chance to, you know, to get well and see the full benefits to this.
I think that's why a lot of people run and stop doing it before they've seen the miracle happen for themselves, because it is I'm not going to lie, it's a hard thing to do.
It's not easy.
It's really, really hard. It's been the hardest thing I've ever done for myself in my life. Yeah. And I don't know if it's a very, very difficult thing to do. I had no idea what was going to happen to me when I came into recovery. I had no idea how hard it was going to be. and there were many times that I wanted to quit. There were many times I wanted to give up, but I didn't. I just had to keep going and keep putting one foot in front of the other. And one thing I now understand is that I had to feel more pain before I was going to feel better. And I think that's what stops people, that's what sends people back out, and that's when people relapse, is when they start to feel their emotions, when they start to feel pain that they've never felt before in their life. They don't, and there's a reason why we drink and use really in the first place, because we don't want to feel emotions. And then when they start to happen, it's very, very scary, and it can come like it's just like an avalanche, and it can be really, really frightening.
Yeah, absolutely.
But one thing to say though, if someone is choosing to come into recovery, that to expect that your emotions are going to be all over the place. You will not know your arse from your elbow. However, that's how you have to start off. There is no other place where you start apart from the bottom.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the most beautiful thing is you're working your way up. You're not going further down. You know, there is no, you know, this is it. You've kind of reached that bottom now, and just keep working. You know, keep working upwards and keep moving forwards. And you know what? Once you remove that kind of obsession to use, to drink, to misbehave, that is the hardest part, which Lucy was talking about. Is that emotional part, you know. But you know what? You're getting to know yourself again. You're getting to know things that you love, things that you like, who you want to be. And this is the thing, it's endless. From an incredible perspective, it's absolutely endless. You know, this journey just gets better and better and better and better. And listen, we can bang on about this for hours, because it's changed who we are, you know, and it's a fucking incredible thing. It really is. It's amazing. You know, as a close friend of mine says, this is the best gear. It's incredible. And listen, no drugs, no alcohol touches this stuff if you put the effort into it, you know, and you get the right help. You know, it can really, really change your life, and I really hope it does.
And it will. And I think that I think that's where we're going to draw the video to a close, really, because we've covered a hell of a lot in the video. And
we did.
We're just so passionate about it as a subject, and you know, these are just what we've experienced. This is just what we've learned along the way. It's not based on empirical research, so don't try and look us up on the internet as having researched this stuff. This is just what we experienced individually and as a couple, and what I've experienced before I met Alex, and what Alex has experienced since he's been in this process. And that's all we can offer you, really, is just what we've been through. That's really it. And like Alex said, if you want to contact us, we can speak to you confidentially. You can contact us
on our website.
And like and subscribe our videos. Please share the videos as well. We really want to just reach people that might be struggling with this stuff, that just don't know where to turn and don't know what to do. It's not an easy thing to reach out and ask for help with this stuff. It's really hard.
It is. Yeah, definitely. But listen, guys, thank you so much for watching the video. You know, I know we've this is the longest one we've done, but again, listen,
it was always going to be.
There is a lot.
Two addicts talking about addiction.
Yeah, exactly. And listen, you know, we would love to talk more about it if we can, you know. And again, go to our website, www.happyasllarrygroup.com. You can, you know, there is a contact us part there where you can just put all your information and you know, share, you know, whatever you want. You know, if you want to speak to us, please let us know. Comment on the video below. We are more than happy to, you know, to answer to any of the comments. If you want us to do any other topics, anything specific, maybe around addiction that you want us to talk about, we can touch on that too. And again, listen, you know, this is our own experience. You know, this is what we've gone through and the process that we've taken to get to where we are today. Follow us on our social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. That's a new one. Snapchat. You know, we're pretty much on every single one of them. You know, at Happy as Larry Group. And listen, guys, thank you so much for the support. You know, if you're watching the video until now, you are fucking legends.
You're probably an addict.
Yeah, you're definitely an addict. And listen, thank you so much. You guys are absolutely incredible. Have an amazing weekend. Anything else, Luce?
that's it. I don't. Well, I probably could talk more, but
yeah,
we'll
let's
leave it
just
there
sign
for
off.
tonight.
Boom, guys, have an amazing weekend.
See you soon.
Take care.